Greetings, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today's video is about the 1212 portal. Now, this is not something that only happens on the day of 1212. This actually extends from 1212 to the winter solstice, 1221. Same numbers, same formulation. So we're going to talk about 8 keys that you'll need to be aware of to unlock this for yourself, and also 4 themes that you're going to need to have in your awareness to make the most out of this season. So if you're here tuning in, ready to get this message, please hit the like button. Thank you so much. Let's get into some details. So, how do you turn this thing around? Lord of mercy. There we go. All right, so as you can see, all these cards I have been meditating on for the past 2 or 3 days, because these are exactly the 8 keys that are going to be required to be understood to get the most out of this season. So when I talk about keys, I talk about something that's going to unlock doors. These shifts, these gateways, these portals, they come multiple times a year, and they are expressions of specific types of energies. So we're going to get into that today. So let's get back to my computer and do so. All right, so we're going to transfer this camera over. Peace, and greetings to everyone who is present. Let me know if the audio is coming through clear on this microphone. Should be. I got all the technical difficulties out of the way. In any case, we're going to cover 3 things here. We're going to talk about the 8 keys that has everything to do with this gateway. When we talk about a gateway, we're talking about an opening, a passage through it, and a closing. So the opening is 1212. The ending is 1221. Same numbers, same numerology. We're going to discuss what's happening in between. So we're going to talk about those 8 keys. We're going to talk about the 4 themes that are going to be playing, as well as like what signs will be and what placements will be affected. And at the end of this, I'm going to give you a sigil that you'll be able to use to tap into the essence of these energies and make them work the best for you in your life. So if that sounds like something that you want to have a hold of, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments in the chat. Good evening, good morning, whatever time it is. This was supposed to come out 2 days ago, but amidst technical difficulties and a few other things, it has been deemed that this is the perfect time. So let's do it. We ball. We ball. AZW, peace. Wraith 636, peace and greetings. All right, so like I said, we're going to talk about these 8 keys and 4 major themes. All right, so the 1212 portal, 8 major keys to unlock your shift, 4 major themes to remain aware of. Wayne M, peace and greetings. Oh yes, let's get to it. Let's get to it. So as far as these 8 major keys, you're looking at them right here, right? We've got the Magus, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Hierophant, the Lovers, Strength, the Hanged Man, and Temperance. Sunshine Chick, always great to see you. Peace. So So these are the 8 keys specifically, and we're going to break down why these are the keys, what these themes are, etc. We're going to start with the themes because that's probably the main thing that people want to hear, and then we'll get into the technical stuff afterwards. All right. So you might want to, if this is something you're interested in, as far as how to really tap into these energies and how to utilize them in a practical way, you might want to take some notes. You might want to pay attention. Mark this down for yourself. So here's what we're getting into here: the energetic factor, right? This is what and who is going to be affected. These energies are specifically going to affect Mercury placements, Moon placements, Venus placements, Taurus, Gemini, Leo, pretty much all 4 water signs, and Sagittarius. So if any of these are prominent in your chart, you're probably going to feel these directly, right? You're probably going to feel these the most intensely. Um, I'm so lucky that I have Gemini as my sun and my moon and Sagittarius as my rising. So I most definitely am feeling these, right? After I did my study and really broke down the different factors, um, it lines up with everything in my life, 100%. So if you've got any of these placements strong in your chart, you are going to feel the same way, right? And like I said, I'm going to give you the themes first, but I'm going to show you my paperwork, right? I'm going to show you exactly how I came to these conclusions in the second part. So, what is the 1212 portal? Perhaps this is something you never heard of, or maybe you have. But the 1212 portal is the last energetic shift of the year. So, believe it or not, people always talk about shifts. They talk about portals and gateways and downloads. These things happen multiple times a year. It's just part of life. You got your 8-8 Lions Gate. You've got your 10-10. That was the most recent one, or your 11-11. This is the 12-12. And some of them are more impactful than others. This particular one is more impactful because it links with and leads to the winter solstice, which is a very prime energetic moment. So what happens is that it amplifies, and it's going to keep amplifying until the climax on the winter solstice. And the reason that we're feeling these more and more now as opposed to before are because naturally we're more in tune with these energies. If you're doing the work, if you're watching this video, if you're watching videos like this, if you're studying, you're becoming more and more sensitive and more in tune to these types of energies. So of course, every year it's going to get more prominent, more profound, and more intense. Specifically, this gateway is symbolic of endings, right? So you might find that there's a lot of things in your life coming to a close, a lot of themes, a lot of recurring situations that are finally coming to a close, as well as new beginnings. So you might be moving into new things, new job, new skills, new friends, new relationships. This is about rebirth and resurrection. And I didn't put it here, but this is also very strongly about the divine masculine and the divine feminine coming into a new level of harmony in your life. That's really what the major theme is for this. So we're talking about transition from one phase to another. So the 12, 21, 24, this is the peak activation. This is when you're probably going to experience this at its highest level, because you're going to have all sorts of energetic backing, right? This, like I said, this is the winter solstice. So naturally, this is a highly energetic time. This is when the veil is thin. You're going to experience the peak very close to this date. So we're going to talk about how you can prepare for that. So I talked about 8 keys, 4 major themes. Let's get to it, right? These are the major themes that we're going to be experiencing here: divine union, skills activation, manifesting power, intuition upgrade. there's a very strong elemental balance that's happening right now. Like I said, we're going to get into exactly how I come to this conclusion. But first, we're going to talk about these themes and how they're probably going to play out in your life within the next week and some change. The first one, of course, is divine union, right? Divine union. Like I said, the major energetic theme behind all of this energy right now is the divine masculine and divine feminine coming into a certain type of harmony, a new level of harmony, specifically exemplified by the Lover's card and the Magus card. So, what we have here is a connection between two levels. If you really want to get down to it, the Lover's card, it's somewhat of a misnomer. It's not necessarily supposed to be a man and a woman in love. Crowley says that it would have been better called the Brothers card. And there's a reason that this card is representative of Gemini, because what you're looking at is two sides of an individual, not two separate people coming together. The original esoteric meaning of the Lover's card is the union, harmony, balance of the lower self and the higher self, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, the external environment and the internal environment coming into a harmony. So you'll notice that both the Magus card and Gemini are ruled by Mercury. Mercury representing movement. Mercury was the messenger of the gods. Mercury has direct access to the most high and the most low. It's Mercury that's running back and forth between the two extreme planes, from Kether to Malkuth and back again. So the divine masculine and divine feminine coming into sacred union. We're talking about that connection, that journey from the most high to the most low, being without any type of blockages, right? With a removal of blockages. And this is how this is going to play out. When I speak of divine masculine and divine feminine, especially esoterically, we're talking about the energies of restriction and expansion. Nothing to do with manness and womanness. We're talking about energy here before bodies are concerned, before culture and gender roles or whatever is concerned. We're talking about energy. And the divine masculine represents expansion, the divine feminine represents restriction. That's why we say the masculine elements are positive, the feminine elements are negative. So, right now, how this translates practically is that in your life, if you are feeling like you've been holding back, if you're feeling like you are restricting yourself, if you're not giving your all, if you're not doing what you're really capable of doing, right? You're too much, you're operating way too much in your feminine aspect. And now is the time to amplify the masculine aspect, which is expanding, moving into new territory, right? And the same goes for the other. If you feel like you've been doing too much, if you've been exhausting yourself, if you've been spreading yourself thin, now is the time to set boundaries, to set restrictions, and to manage your energy in a different way, right? That's what this is about. So you know what you're doing. You know if you're expanding too much energy, and you know if you're holding yourself back too much. Whichever way you're going and you're feeling that, now's the time for you to start to change directions, right? So this also deals with partnership, teamwork, collaboration, deals. You may have someone from the past coming back into your life. You may enter into some type of new partnership, some type of new collaboration with somebody. Now is the time for teamwork. Now is the time for working with someone else who matches your energy, who sees eye to eye. Now, if you watch my channel, you know that I don't believe in twin flames and that kind of thing, but you do. So this can also represent a time for twin flames coming together to improve and amplify that fire, right? Like I said, the original esoteric meaning of the Lover's card is about the union between the higher self and the lower self, the conscious and the subconscious, But that doesn't mean that it can't play out between two people who connect in a special way. So that's the first theme of what's happening right now, right? The divine union. So pay attention to that. If this theme comes up in your life and you recognize it, pay special attention. This might be an opportunity you don't want to miss. Let's go to the next theme. The next theme is skills activation. What do I mean by that? Right? You've heard of people talking about genetic codes and uh, cosmic. Uh, what are the buzzwords we use here? Cosmic heritage, ancient genetic codes, dormant DNA codes, that type of thing. Really, what we're talking about here is expansion, right? Evolution. If you are working more on connecting with your spirit, if you're working more on your shadow work and you're starting to identify with the higher self and less with the lower self, right? Less with matter and more with spirit. If you're doing that, then by default, you're raising in vibration. And if you're raising in vibration, you're getting closer and closer to the creator. And if you're getting closer to the creator, that means that you're moving away from separation. When you're in separation, you're very limited in how you can express yourself. But the closer that you get to the creator, you now have more options, right? Because we're talking about oneness, unity, singularity. So, of course, once you get up to that point, all things are possible, right? But the further you are from that point, there's only so much you can do. So, what I'm saying is, if you're doing your work to raise in vibration, you're naturally going to be unlocking new skills within yourself. So right now you might be pulled towards a new hobby. You might be pulled towards some type of new skill set. You're trying to learn something new. You're trying to do something that you haven't done before. Pay attention to this, right? This is a part of this 12-12, 12-21 gateway that we're entering right now. If you're being pulled towards learning a new skill or developing a new skill, mash down the foot on the pedal. Go 100%, right? Because what you're actually doing is you're seeking to unlock a part of yourself that hasn't been unlocked before. It's in you already. In fact, you're probably going to find that when you're doing this thing, it's going to come natural to you. You're not going to have any resistance to it. You're going to pick it up like you've been doing it all along. You're going to find that this is triggered from you stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? We've got the strength card here, which is representative of the sun, right? It's going to be triggered by that sun, that solar energy. So, literally, just like you stepping outside the house and touching grass, getting some sun, this new hobby, this new skill set, this new thing that you're entering into is going to be triggered by you stepping out of your comfort zone, right? Because these new frequencies are manifesting and they're manifesting through you as new skills, new hobbies, new interests, right? Because if you're doing the same old stuff, you're going to get the same old thing. But this is new energy that's coming through and it's unlocking things that have been dormant in you. And it's going to be practically manifested by your interest in a new subject matter. So take a hold of that. Go all in. And of course, we've got temperance here. And as you can see, the angel of temperance represents the higher self. And he's performing alchemy. He's mixing, he's turning fire into water and water back into fire. This is going to be a time where you gain mastery over things in your life that you didn't think that you'd be doing. Something that you probably wouldn't have dreamed you'd be doing a year ago, let alone 2 years ago, 5 years ago, etc. All right, you with me? Cosmic puzzle piece. Peace. The third thing we're talking about is manifestation power, right? And just like I said, the closer you're getting to source, the more that you expand your awareness of reality, the more that you identify with spirit and less with physical matter, you're going to come into more and more of a direct control over manifestation, right? So, specifically, you're going to find that there may have been things in your past especially within the past year, that you find that you haven't been recognized for your contribution, right? You will find that you haven't been recognized for your sacrifices. There's been a lot of effort that you've been pouring into certain people, certain situations, and you know that you just haven't been getting any type of what's the word? Any type of credit, basically, right? And see, this is actually a good thing because what it's showing you is that you're pouring your energy into ground that is not fertile. And if you want your manifestations to be more consistent, you're going to have to learn how to identify fertile ground to plant your seeds in. If you've been planting seed in unfertile ground, you're not getting a consistent yield. You're not getting a consistent harvest. So what this time frame that we're entering into now is teaching us is how to identify fertile ground, right? So it's time for manifesting a new space. This could mean that it's time to move, right? It could mean that it's time to find literally a new space. This could also mean that you move into a new mental space, a new emotion space. Maybe it's time to start protecting your emotions, time to start being selfish, right? At the bottom, I have here, take care of yourself, start being selfish. And I mean that, right? There's no way to really sugarcoat it. I mean, obviously, you're an adult, like if you got kids or other responsibilities like that, you do what you got to do. But when you're putting too much into other people and other things and it's not feeding you back, right? You might have a friend group and you might feel like the third wheel or the oddball. You might be doing things for other people and they just simply don't appreciate it, they don't reciprocate, that kind of thing. When it comes to those areas of your life, it's time to acknowledge those and be real with yourself and be selfish. Withdraw that energy back into yourself and plant it into fertile ground. These are two earth signs here. Um, this Empress, Venus, that represents Venus, Mother Nature, right? And the five, the hierophant, that represents Taurus. So we've got Mother Nature and we've got tilling the ground of Earth. This is Venus and Earth. It's time for you to create. It's time for you to plant seeds in fertile ground. That's how you're going to get your abundance. That's how you're going to get your manifestation. That's how you're going to get your structure. But you've got to be honest with yourself and you've got to have the strength to withdraw and plant into new soil, right? So you've noticed synchronicities amplifying. We all have, right? And this is another sign of your manifestation power increasing. These synchronicities are getting crazy, right? They're amplifying more and more and more. And this is a sign that you're getting closer and closer and closer to your source, to your center, right? Higher the frequency, the closer and closer to source. So that's the third theme. Let's check out the fourth. The fourth theme is intuition upgrade. This is what you're going to be noticing here, right? Now is the time for you to start walking by the light of your intuition. What do I mean by that? You've been doing enough work by now to recognize the difference between mind and intuition, to recognize the difference between ego and fear and intuition and faith. You are spiritually mature enough to recognize the difference. There's some people who aren't, but at this stage in the game, 2024, right, I think that we can all agree that the work has paid dividends in that aspect at least, right? So if you're able to recognize the voice of intuition versus the voice of your thoughts, it's time to lean into that. It's time to lean into intuition. I know that it can be scary, kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? But this is how you strengthen the connection with your higher self. This is how you strengthen the connection with your intuition and your spirit, is by trusting it, is by leaning into it, is by following it, treating it as the authority that it is. That's how your connection is going to grow. So this intuition upgrade, it's available to you. Just like if you have your phone or your computer and it says it's time for an update, You can update it, or you can click cancel and neglect that update. It's your choice. Clicking on the update button involves you walking in faith, trusting your intuition. Not me, not somebody else. Trusting what that voice of intuition is telling you to do. Now, the caveat here, what it's all based on, is you understanding and recognizing the difference between your mind, your ego thoughts, and this voice of intuition. And if you're not there yet, if you're not able to recognize the difference between those two voices yet, perhaps there's some more work for you to do, more meditation for you to do, more self analysis for you to do, more shadow work for you to do. Because if you've been paying attention to yourself, paying attention to the pattern of your thoughts, paying attention to your likes and your dislikes, your cognitive biases, if you've been meditating in stillness and quiet and just listening and observing and watching, you automatically, naturally start to develop the awareness of the voice of your spirit. All right. So those are the four major themes that you're going to be really, really seeing symbolic communication about. And a lot of you have already been seeing that. And for those of you who haven't, well, it's going to ramp up here very, very soon. Alex Cuckoo, peace. So let me know if you've been experiencing these four themes at all in your life, especially recently. And again, when we talk about these four major themes, we're talking about divine union, skills activation, right? Those cosmic DNA codes that are sitting dormant are starting to become activated. And what you're experiencing is a push towards exploring new hobbies, new skills, new things. The manifestation power is amplifying. You see that through all the synchronicities. You might just be having thoughts to yourself, and within minutes, within hours, within that same day, you're seeing an external echo of what's been happening on the inside, right? Manifestation power, intuition upgrade. You're learning the voice, but you're learning the difference between the voice of spirit and ego. And if you know the difference, it's time to follow the voice of intuition. It's almost like time is speeding up and you're able to kind of skip stages, right? You're not really taking shortcuts, but the collective unconscious is rapidly expanding. So what I'm saying is that things are going to be easier for those of you who already have your ship in the water. My uncle used to say, rising tide lifts all ships. So if you've got your ship in the water, the tide is now rising. So you're going to find that some of the stuff is going to be becoming so much easier to you, as opposed to somebody who hasn't been doing the work, basically. Cosmic Puzzle Piece says, wow, the freaking Hangman card has been calling me. Yeah, speaking of water, that card represents the cosmic waters, right? Boom. AZ Dub says, yes, I had my baby pull a card yesterday and it was the Fool. Hey, youngins know. Alex Cuckoo says, I was curious. You no longer have the membership. Can't see the join button. I no longer have my badge, but I didn't cancel it. Yeah, man. Having some beef with YouTube right now. They took away my monetization. I'll have to try to get it back next year. But yeah, with that being taken away, so did the memberships and all that other stuff. So got to try some new things here. I should be able to get it back in March, but yeah, that's what has happened. Cosmic Puzzle Piece says water. I'm a Pisces also. Well, yeah, like I said, I gave a list of all the signs that this would be affecting, and that's definitely it right there. All water signs: Mercury, Moon, Venus, Taurus, Gemini, Leo, water sign, Sagittarius. Those placements are going to be feeling this energy the most, right? Let's keep going. So now let's get to the 8 keys that I discussed. We're going to talk about how I came to these conclusions. And it's by the numbers. We're talking about cosmic codes. We're talking about cosmic algorithms. Now, specifically, as you can see, these are the numbers that we're dealing with. We're dealing with 1, 2, now 1 and 2 together, right? Because of December, or because of the 12th, or even the 21st. 1 and 2 make 3. If you add all these numbers up, you get the number 14. 1 plus 4 is 5. If you just add the day and the month, you get 6. If you just add the year, you get 8, right? And this has been an 8-year. We can also just look at 12 or 21. That's what we're doing. And then 14, of course, would be all the numbers added up. 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4, right? So these are the numbers that are behind this gateway. 1212 and 1221. Let's keep going. So we're going to break down all these numbers Kabbalistically using the tarot. So the first key that you're going to need to understand, the first out of the 8 pieces of energy that we're dealing with, is the Magician, right? And this card represents alchemy. It's ruled by Mercury, and I already explained about Mercury being the connection between the most high and the most low. That's why he's got one hand pointing up to Kether and one hand pointing down to Malkuth, right? This is the transition between the nothing and the something. Specifically, if you look at the path between Kether and Bina, that is the path that is represented by this card. The nothing being Kether, being formless, being completely undifferentiated, connecting to Bina, which is the first aspect of form, right? So the absolute nothing to the absolute something. Drastic difference. We could even say polarity, extremes. The transition between the one pure source of all energy, undefined, and the great organizer, right? That's Bina. So we're talking about that which stands between. We're talking about direction through vibration. That's how the nothing becomes something, through the direction, through vibration. And this is organization through thought and word. So what's that telling us? These energies, right? The theme that I mentioned here, the divine union, skills activation, manifestation, power, intuition upgrade. You might want to write those 4 down. But look, this is how these things are coming to pass. You're going to have to speak this stuff. You're going to have to think this stuff. You're going to have to assume the position of the magician and stand in between the nothing and the something. I mean, that's your task anyway. And that's one of the energies that's behind what's happening here. So that's the number 1. If you'll notice here, see, this is the tree of life. Look at those colors. Those of you, my students who've been studying diligently, will notice that these colors look a little bit different. We've heard the unfortunate and many others talk about how the colors are the keys to unlock some of the hidden mysteries and hidden doors of Kabbalah. Well, this is one of those keys that I'll share with you right now, if you've got the ears to hear it. Remember, the path of Kether and Bina, Kether to Bina is the magician card. And notice that Kether is white and Bina is red. This is on the king scale. This is the king scale tree. So you'll notice that Bina is red and Kether is white. And of course, Malkuth is yellow. So let's go back to this card and look at the colors that you see. Red, that's going to represent Bina. He's clothed in the Bina force of Atziluth. The white, the inner robe, the wand, those literally are representing Kether. You'll notice also that his belt is silver. Well, it's a bluish silver according to the text. That would be representing Hakma, the masculine aspect. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Literally, the as above, so below. The white of Kether through the red agency of Bina down to the yellow agency of Malkuth. Framestar Films, peace and greetings. All right, you follow? Tracking? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. So the second energy of the 8 keys, the second of the 8 keys, is the energy of the High Priestess. This is the subconscious force, right? This is the mind behind the mind. Not the mind that you think of actively, but the mind that's operating passively. So if the Magician card is the masculine, the High Priestess is the divine feminine, and they're working together. They're working together. This is a card that represents the power of the moon. Now, if you look at the Tree of Life, you'll see that the High Priestess is the path that goes between Kether at the top and Tifereth in the middle. That's the longest path on the tree, and it also crosses the abyss, which you can see as represented by the gray square at the top versus the white towards the bottom. This is the path that crosses the abyss. So you'll see that she sits in front of a veil between those two pillars. So if the Magician is connecting Kether to Bina, he's the one that's directing nothing to something through vibration. She's connecting the nothing to the higher self. So she's a direct link between what we know of as God, as the Most High, and our higher self. She's that direct link. So this is going to come through to us through unconscious awareness, through intuition. That's why I'm saying it's time to trust the intuition, to listen to the voice of the intuition, because that's the voice that's coming down from above, not the voice that's coming from the elemental influences. That's your mind. That's your thought process. Your everyday thought process, your everyday mind, that's coming from the influence of the elements. Right now, it's time to lean on the voice of God itself, and that's coming through intuition. So, Cheetah, the mind substance, this is the virgin, right? And she, this high priestess, has been represented as the Virgin Mary. And when we talk about virgin here in aspects of metaphysics, we're not talking about something physical. We're talking about a concept. So Cheetah, the mind substance, is almost like the blank slate that thought uses to create thoughts, that mind uses to create thoughts. And that's what she is. She's the very substance through which we create. Now, the reason that it's virgin is because no matter what we can even see the Cheetah, the mind substance, as like this clay. No matter how much we mold and shape that clay, it will always return to its original state. Always. And that's why it's virgin, because it doesn't actually change. The change is the illusion. She represents the prototype. And what we experience is what's crafted based on that prototype concept. Ultra Instinct, peace and greetings. Veronica Archaga, peace, peace. Love you, Veronica. So as I mentioned about Cheetah, she is the source of all vibratory patterns. So think about this now. If this is a time where manifestation power is increasing, the manifestation is literally you taking vibrational patterns and putting them to use, crystallizing them, turning them into something. You're taking these cookie cutter patterns and slicing the cookie out, right? This high priestess is the source of all vibratory patterns, because as I showed before, she is the link between Kether and Tifereth, and that's one of the major energies behind what's happening right now with this 12-12, 12-21 pathway. She's the union of all polarities. So no matter what it is that you're trying to do, trying to learn, whatever you're seeking for, it is a polarity, right? The fact that you don't have and you want, that's one side of the polarity. The other side is having it and not wanting it. She's the reconciler of all opposites. And you can see that here with the two pillars. Reflection and duplication is what she represents. That's why she's symbolized by the moon, right? So just look at the symbolism here. She's the path that connects Kether to the higher self. But it's not going to all flow down in a flood that's going to overwhelm you and drown you. It's like the moon. It's going to have phases and cycles. Sometimes it's full, sometimes it's closed. And you've got to be aware of those patterns in order to flow with those patterns. Okay, so the next energy that's associated with this time, right? So we've got the 1, on the left side here, we've got the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, the 6, the 8, the 12, the 14. All those are the forces that's behind what's happening here. And once again, the 4 major themes that are coming through is divine union between the divine masculine and divine feminine. If you're doing too much, it's time to restrict. And if you've been holding back, it's time to expand. We've got skills activation, right? So you're probably looking and interested in a new hobby, in a new skill, in a new craft, in learning something, learning how to do something. That is these forces attempting to come through you, right? It's trying to come through you, and it has to find some form of expression. And that's symbolized by you seeking a new skill right now. 3, manifestation power. I don't have to tell you that synchronicities are ramping up. I don't have to tell you that your manifestations are coming through faster and faster and more specific. Intuition upgrade. Now it's the time to lean on that intuition, because I just talked about the high priestess, right? And she represents that connection between God and your higher self. And the only way that you're going to maximize that connection is if you lean on your intuition, as opposed to leaning on the elemental forces that speak to you through fear and pleasure. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 12, 14. We talked about 1, talked about 2. Let's talk about 3. 3 represents abundance. 3 represents abundance. 1 is the man, 2 is the woman, 3 is the child. So this is represented by the power of Venus. And she's going to represent material assistance, right? So I talked about that manifestation power, right? We can go all the way back. Manifestation power. Look, you've got the Empress on your side, and you've got the hierophant. Let's talk about it. So you've got material assistance right now. What that means is that the cosmic energies at play are in harmony with the concept of bringing things through from the subjective plane to the objective plane, bringing things through the nothing to become something. That's why I talked about the magician card connecting Kether and Bina, the nothing into the something. That's what time it is right now. Incubation, doorway, Janus. Have you ever heard of the god Janus? Perhaps you have. We have immortalized Janus in our culture and given the name January based off of him. And Janus is often symbolized as a god with 2 faces, one on both sides, one face male, one face female. And the reason that the Empress relates to Janus is because the energy that she's representing is called the doorway, the gateway. And Janus is the doorway, the gateway. She also connects with Venus, Aphrodite. So we're talking about manifestation of beauty. As an exercise, the student should try to conceive of pure emotion. That is, feeling which has no subject or object, which is neither love nor hate, but which is the raw material of both. That may convey something of the Empress, who is the great mother of ideas, Mother Nature. If you're paying attention, you'll notice there's a recurring pattern between these cards. And if you can grasp that recurring pattern, that is the wand, the magic wand, the philosopher's stone. WT, peace, peace, peace. TEO23, peace and greetings. Peace. So check this out. We got the 1, the 2, the 3. Let's move on to the. Oh, well, look. I mentioned before about Janus. Here's Janus, the two-headed god. It says that Janus, in ancient Roman religion and myth, Janus is the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. He is usually depicted as having two faces. The month of January is named for Janus. So you see that? That's also why the high priestess is pregnant, because she's the doorway, the gateway, bringing nothing into something. And look at Aphrodite. Aphrodite is an ancient Greek goddess associated with love, lust, beauty, pleasure, passion, procreation. And as her syncretized Roman goddess counterpart, Venus, desire, sex, fertility, prosperity, and victory. Aphrodite's major symbols include seashells, myrtles, roses, doves, sparrows, and swans. So keep an eye out for some of that. Keep an eye out for some of that. So again, the reason that we're pulling up these cards is because these are the energies behind the gateway that we are now in the midst of, right? And if you pay attention towards the end of this video, I'm going to give you a sigil that you can use. I'm also going to show you the secret battery behind this particular gateway. Yes, it happens every year and it's been happening for thousands of years, but there's a hidden battery that's fueling this whole thing. And I promise you, no YouTube person has ever showed this to you because they don't study the occult like I do. Next, we've got the hierophant, number 5, foundation, right? This is representative of Taurus. And this is connecting to that manifestation energy here. It's teaching that which introduces higher ideas into the lower organism. I hope you're catching the recurring themes between all of these cards, right? That which introduces higher ideas into the lower organism. In other words, the teacher, right? The guru. He's bringing higher ideas to the lower mind. And this isn't anything to do with status or people. We're talking about energies. We're talking about aspects of consciousness, right? This is the link between outer experience and inner illumination. So when I say outer experience, we're talking about your practical everyday life, right? You're probably getting up right now, getting ready to go to work or go to school or ready to enjoy your day off. That's your outer experience. But see, the inner illumination can happen in the midst of all that. You can have some type of download, some type of understanding, breakthrough, right? And the connection between those two is represented by the hierophant right here. This is also the demiurge, the maker of rules. I am the maker of rules, dealing with fools. I can cheat you blind, right? That's what we're dealing with here. The hierophant is specifically the demiurge. I know a lot of people are scared of that name, that word, that concept. But the thing is, your relationship with that force will determine what happens, right? AZW says still sounds like the subconscious. Precisely. Precisely. So just like if you're in school and you've got this teacher that's a strict hard ass, if you're rebellious and you just don't want to do what you're supposed to do and you're causing trouble, of course you're going to have a relationship that is very stressful to the both of you. But if you understand what time it is and just do your part, do your role, you have an opportunity to excel, right? It's not like you're going to be in that class forever. You're in that class for a couple of months. And if you're in there and you do what you're supposed to do, you can come out with shining colors. But I know a lot of people don't like authority, right? I'm one of those people too. Growing up, I had a lot of trouble with authority. But sometimes you just got to understand, right? People always talk about how life is a school, like life is a college or whatnot. Well, that means that you've got certain teachers, and your teachers aren't always people, right? Sometimes your teachers are experiences, right? Sometimes your teachers are recurring experiences. And the moment that you sit down and pay attention and get your lesson is the moment that you graduate. And in doing so, you learn foundational principles that you take with you so that you don't repeat the same mistakes. AZW says, same, especially with being in the military. Exactly. Exactly. Janwin Mudrak, peace and greetings. So let's keep going. Next, we got the lovers. 6. There's a 6 energy that's happening right now. And like I said, that's what happens when you combine 12 and 12, or 12 and 21. You got the 1 plus the 2, that's 3. And you got the 2 plus the 1, that's 3. Together, that makes 6. So that's a big part of what's happening with this gateway, the beginning and the end. Harmony, right? Gemini is the force behind this card. And as I mentioned, Crowley said that instead of the lovers, it would be better referred to as the brothers, because it's actually one entity with opposing parts. And the power of this card is within reconciling those parts, right? Two sides of one being. This represents alignment of consciousness, subconscious into a pure channel for the divine. Notice once again, we've got those two polarities between the super high and the super low. And this is an active card, right? It's an air sign. So air is active. This is an active pursuit of unity. This isn't just sitting back waiting for it. This is you actually doing something to get there, doing the work type of card. Now, of course, for some people, like I said, I don't believe in the twin flame stuff, but you do. So for some people, this could represent you stepping into a new relationship or a new level of relationship, you connecting with someone or something that helps to give you an experience of the next level, right? It very well could be that. But ultimately, this card is about balancing the higher self. And that's what this whole gateway is all about. And that's what it's about every single year. And like I said, the more advanced and expanded you become in your consciousness, the more this makes sense every year, right? Every year, this 12-21 gateway should be almost like a birthday for your soul, right? A celebration for your soul. This should be a celebration week, kind of like it was thousands of years ago. More on that later. Let's keep going. 8, strength. This is another energy behind the entire year, actually, because 2024 comes to 8, right? 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So this is actually the energy behind the entire year, and we can add it to everything else that we've been saying, right? Pay attention to the colors. Yellow, like I said, is Malkuth of Asaya. In fact, let's go back to that picture of the king scale colors of the tree. So we have yellow, we've got orange, we've got white. So notice that the orange could go for Netzach as well as Gibera. And I'll have you know that the card strength connects Gibera to Chesed. So it's directly connecting. See, these other cards have been connecting up and down, but this card connects left to right, but still the masculine and the feminine. So again, you got the orange colors, you got the yellow for Malkuth, you got the white for Kether. In fact, that's a big theme in all these cards. So look, the strength of the sun, right? The strength card specifically is talking about the strength of the sun. And this is when I said earlier, when it comes to, let's go back, the skills activation. I said triggered by the sun, step out of your comfort zone. That's what's happening here. That's why one of the major themes is skills activation. In case you missed that part, the 4 are divine union, skills activation, manifestation power, intuition upgrade. So the strength of the sun, that's the strongest force that we human beings know of. The sun is enduring. The sun is consistent. The sun feeds everything. I heard someone say earlier, there's only one food, and that is the sun, right? Because the sun feeds plants, plants feed animals, humans eat the animals and the plants, but ultimately all the energy comes from the sun. But check this out. See, this is what we're dealing with this year, as well as with this card. Right now, I mentioned that Gibra Ra is connected to Chesed through this force. Do not be overwhelmed by the power you invoke. With more power comes more responsibility. I mentioned that manifestation power is going to be increasing more and more in these days. Do not be overwhelmed by what you invoke. Discipline of nature is what this card represents. Specifically, discipline of the elemental kings. That's what that lion represents. You could say it represents your lower self. You could say that she's the higher self, disciplining the lower self. But specifically, this lion represents the elemental kings, the highest aspect of the elemental forces, right? And this discipline is done through consistency. It's not done with brute force. You could imagine that she's trained that lion, right? She didn't just go out in the wild and pick up some random ass lion and stick her hands in its mouth. I don't think that would make sense on any plane. But we could imagine that through consistency and training over time, this lion would go along with the program. So here's a quote by Paul Foster Case about this card. By prolonged practice, right? Pay attention to this because maybe you've ignored it. Maybe you didn't take it as seriously, but I want you to hear what this guy said. By prolonged practice, pursued sometimes for months and years without apparent result. How many of y'all have been practicing for months and years with no result? You feel like giving up, or maybe this stuff don't work, or maybe I'm not cut out for it, or whatever nonsense the elemental forces influence you to say to yourself. He said that by prolonged practice, pursued sometime for months and years without apparent result, those who follow the way of liberation affect changes in their subconsciousness. These changes are symbolized by the key 8. That's what we're looking at here, key number 8. These changes, right, are symbolized by the key 8 and produce at the same time the results shown in key 16. If you don't know, key 16 is the tower card. You know, the one with lightning coming down and breaking the tower and people are jumping out of it. Both of these forces are representative of the Kundalini fire. See, in truth, the Hebrew letter that represents this card is a snake. Again, with the demiurge symbolism, with the lion's head and the snake's body. But that serpent actually represents the Kundalini force, the Kundalini energy, which is a very high, if not the highest, spiritual energy that we can deal with. Hence why her wrestling with this lion is not just any of the elemental forces, but the cream of the crop, the elemental kings, the most disciplined of the elemental forces. But the snake aspect, the Kundalini fire, that's more about the tower card. This is more about coming into a relationship with the higher self. And that relationship being the higher self disciplining the elemental forces, spiritual authority. Now, listen to this. The whole point of meditational exercise is an actual and subtle change in the structure of the body cells, elemental forces. And those who are familiar with Dion Fortune's definition of Kabbalah as the yoga of the West will appreciate that Paul Case directly said things at which she only hinted. So there's a clue, perhaps. Maybe read some of what Paul Case wrote about the tarot. So, another force behind what's happening, obviously, is the number 12. right? 1212 and 1221. And this force is represented by water, right? This is a card that means sacrifice. Again, with the higher self connecting to the lower self. So what we have here is the initiator between higher self and lower self, baptism. Just like in church, you were a Christian, possibly. At least I was. I remember being a Baptist, and you weren't really saved, right? Until you were baptized in that water. You had to be dunked in the water and come up a new person. And it represented you immersing yourself in the love of Christ and the Spirit of Christ and being reborn through the water. See, there's three baptisms: one of water, one of fire, and one of air. In this particular case, we're dealing with the baptism of water. Why? Because there is a heavy emphasis on structuring and coming into an alignment with the subconscious mind. Heavy emphasis on that right now, right? Submerged into the collective unconscious. That's what this water actually represents. Now, I want you to look closely at this card. There's an occult symbol that's hidden in this card. You see the cross at the top and the triangle, right? With the top of his foot being the apex and his two arms being the base. So it's the triangle with the cross on top of it. Now we're dealing with an inversion of perspective. So look, you need to find some way to see life from a different angle, right? Um, your everyone's life is different. Maybe you might need to hit something green if you haven't done that in a long time. Maybe you need to take a sip. Maybe you need to go travel. Maybe you need to, I don't know, watch something on TV you haven't watched. Do something that's going to put you in a different state that you aren't normally in. Now, of course, be responsible with this. Don't go crazy. I'm not saying do something specific, but what I am saying is find a way to see life through a different perspective, right? Now, this card represents sacrifice. What is being sacrificed, right? Because we can say the hanged man. There's also a heavy symbolism of Christ with this. Let me go back just a little bit. So this whole intuition upgrade that I mentioned before, right? The intuition upgrade represented by the high priestess and the hanged man. You're going to have to pay attention to your intuition and follow that intuition, right? That's going to take a sacrifice of what? Of the lower self, of the ego, of the mind, of your fear. Stop being scared. Stop being so cautious when it comes to the spirit. I can understand being cautious in the physical plane of people and situations, but when your spirit is trying to get through to you, all that fear and all that caution and distrust, it's only holding you back and keeping you in a low place. And it helps to kind of shake things up a bit and see things from a different perspective. So this hanged man is the sacrifice of desire. Desire is that triangle. Desire is this, right? Remember it's set up here, Aphrodite, Venus, desire, sex, fertility, right? So as well as understanding the manifestation power, the gateway, the thing is you don't want to get overwhelmed and caught up in what you're manifesting. Crowley said something to the effect of the one of the most dangerous things on the path for any student is to be dazzled by manifestations, right? If at any point you see something on this path that you're just struck by and stuck by, that's dangerous because you can quickly start to make that your new focus, your new God, as opposed to understanding the real focus is learning that you are not matter, you are spirit. So check this out. I also have at the bottom there standing on principle, not feeling, right? Shout out to my gnosis. That's what he always says, stand on principle. And that's what's happening here. Standing on principle, not feeling. Standing on rationality, not desire. So check the symbol out, the triangle and the cross. The top left, you see the symbol used frequently by the Golden Dawn because they collectively agreed that a big part of their message is just this, the hanged man and what he represents. You can see right here on the tree of life in the center there, that cross represents the connection of Kether, Hakma, and Bina coming down to Tifereth. And the triangle there being of the astral self, the higher self, and how that cross sits above the astral self. In other words, knowing that even the highest thing that you can be aware of, know that they're still higher than that and always seek that. You can see in that fourth picture, you've got Christ as the hanged man, right? With the cross on top. Same exact thing. And also the circle there is it's esoteric of the air element. Air, fire, water, earth, all four elements are in that picture right there. All four elements are in that picture. Let's keep going. By the way, the blue of his shirt is Hakma, the red of his pants are Bina, the yellow's Malkuth, the white in the background is Kether. Because remember, previously in the magician card, the yellow in the background was Malkuth. Let's keep going. About this card, Carl Jung, this is what he says about the hanged man. Pay attention to this as well. This is the experience of the hanged man, a boundless expanse full of unprecedented uncertainty, with apparently no inside and no outside, no above and no below, no here and no there, no mine and no thine, no good and no bad. It is the world of water, where all life floats in suspension, where the realm of the sympathetic system, the soul of everything living, begins, where I am individually this and that, where I experience the other in myself and the other than myself experiences me. The collective unconscious is anything but an encapsulated personal system. It is sheer objectivity, as wide as the world and open to all the world. There I am, the object of every subject, in complete reversal of my ordinary consciousness, where I am always the subject that has an object. Big deal, right? Big deal. He's talking about the collective unconscious. And at this point, when you enter into the collective unconscious, you become that and that becomes you. There's a switching of place, a switching of perspective. And this should be reminiscent of something that was said earlier. Let's see, what was that quote from before? Here, the Empress. Look at this quote. I'll read it again. As an exercise, the student should try to conceive of pure emotion, that is feeling which has no subject and no object, which is neither love nor hate, but which is the raw material of both. That may convey something of the Empress, who is the great mother of ideas, Mother Nature. So there's something about coming into a level of awareness, or trying your best at least, where there's no good and bad, there's no mine and yours, right? There's no hate, no love, no above, no below, no polarities. We often identify as the polarities. What these cards are telling us is that it's time to identify with the medium. The magician is the medium. The high priestess is the medium. The empress is the medium. The hierophant is the medium. The hanged man is the medium. The lover's card is the medium. Are you seeing the pattern here? I sure hope so. The temperance is the medium. So check it out. 14, right? Because all the numbers added up of the beginning and the end of the portal, 12/12/2024, 12/21/2024, they equal to 14. And this is what 14 represents: transmutation. Sagittarius is the force behind this card, right? So this is where the higher self connects with the lower self. Boom. This is the path that connects Tifereth to Yesod, right? This is the higher self connecting with the lower self. This is actually a physical process. So this is going to be triggered by something that you actually are doing on the physical plane. This is an interchange of opposite energies, just like all the rest of those cards that I mentioned today. This is activation, integration of the lower self into the higher self. And this is done through what I mentioned earlier about following your intuition, right? Walking by the light of intuition. You're at the stage where you can recognize the difference. This is done through gratitude and trust in the feminine aspect, which is the subconscious, right? Pay special attention to dreams at this time. In other words, write them down. For the next week, write your dreams down. There's a lot that's channeling through right now. But by trusting your intuition, this is how you're going to start to bridge that gap. This is how you're going to start to understand what your spirit is directing you to do. Not what I'm telling you to do or anybody else, what your spirit is trying to get through to you. Now, your spirit uses people like me, uses situations in your life, uses signs and symbols. And as I mentioned also, skills activation, you're being attracted to different hobbies and skills right now. Take advantage of that because your spirit's trying to unlock something in you. As you can see right there, the temperance card. I hope that this is really coming through to you. I hope this is making sense. So once again, the integration of the lower self into the higher, right? This is perfect elemental alignment. This is one of the shifts that is unlike any of the rest of them, right? This is a very special one. Of all those symbols that I just showed you, those 8 keys, this is actually perfect elemental alignment. There's 2 air signs, 2 fire signs, 2 water signs, 2 earth signs. That's why there's 8 keys and 4 themes. It just lines up so perfectly. Mercury's an air sign, of course. Moon's represented by water. Venus is earth. Taurus is earth. Gemini's air. Leo's fire. All water signs because of the hanged man. And Sagittarius is fire. Boom. Boom. And once again, maybe screenshot this. Mercury is alchemy. The moon is the subconscious. Venus is abundance. Taurus is the foundation. Gemini is harmony. Leo is capability. Water sign is sacrifice. Sagittarius is transmutation. Maybe take a screenshot of this and reflect on how these energies are coming through right now. These are the energies that are coming through the 12-12-12-21 portal, right? I don't know what the hell these other folks are talking about, making clicking sounds and talking about your new girlfriend that's coming. I don't know where they get any of that from, but I just showed you where I got mine from, right? You can double check it. At least take these same symbols and do your own research. See what you come up with. But this is what time it is right now. This is what we're dealing with. Take advantage of it to the max. Squeeze every drop out of it. 8 major keys. You may see these symbols popping up, hell, for the next 7 days. So I promised you that I would show you next the sigil for this portal. Take this sigil, meditate on it, and what you're going to experience is the combination of all these energies. I would suggest drawing it out in red marker if you have red marker or red paint, and possibly putting it in a plastic bag or something, not a plastic bag, but a Ziploc bag, putting it under your pillow, right? Or having it on your desk or somewhere that you can often see it. And here's the sigil, right? As you can see, these are actually the cards that I have listed here. These are the paths on the tree. So from Kether to Bina is the Mage's card. From Kether to Tiferet is the High Priestess. From Bina to Chokmah is the Empress. From Chokmah to Chesed is the Pope, Hierophant. The Strength card, the Hanged Man, and what's her name? Temperance. And of course the Lover's card. These are the paths. So if you draw them out like that and put a fancy circle around it, to concentrate the force. And, I'm low-key showing you how to make sigils, but ignore that. Just take the finished product. This is the sigil. Screenshot this, draw it yourself, put it under your pillow, meditate on it, and you come tell me what happens when you do that. You tell me what happens when you do that. So, this is the secret force behind the 1212 to 1221 portal. This is the secret force. Saturn. I didn't make it up. Look, Saturnalia was celebrated from December 17th to December 23rd in ancient Rome. It originally started as a one-day festival on December 17, but was later extended to 7 days. Now, you go look this up on your own. And I know it's a lot of people talking, oh, well, it was an evil holiday and they were sacrificing children. But, you know, every single person who's going to tell you that does not study. They got the shit from TikTok or from whatever else someone else said. If you care, do your research on this holiday and the metaphysical aspect of it. Not what these scary ass people talking about, but the science. That's what we do. We look at the science, not the superstition, right? This is the force behind this particular portal. So understand it's about discipline. Bina was a major factor, wasn't she? Look at how many paths are connecting to Bina. How many times did the Empress or Isis, right? I call 1212 Isis. Some of y'all who watch my channel know that. 1212 is Isis. And she appears all throughout this thing right here. Empress, High Priestess, the Lovers. She's everywhere. All that is Saturn. So check that out. Do your research. Do your due diligence. Meditate on the sigil. Make sure that you are looking out for these 4 major themes: divine union, skills activation, manifestation, power, intuition, upgrade. That's what time it is. You got it. Enjoy your day. I'm gonna leave you with a nice song, and that's that. I've been up all night working on this. I hope you appreciated it. Yeah. YouTube has demonetized me, so all of your donations are greatly appreciated and will certainly go to good use. Thank you so much. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you. Peace.
Breaking the sky to the goddamn impersonation. Tune to the constant criticism and discouraging. Showcasing your weakness, yeah. Don't you realize you lose your way? Shutting down.